You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. HB 1, known as the Anti-Riot Bill, also is signed into law by the governor of Florida, folks. It makes protesting a felony. Also allows local police to challenge budgets, opens cities to liability for poor riot control, and creates or strengthens penalties against those it deems rioters. It also protects all monuments in Florida. In a statement, DeSantis said, in part, if you riot, loot, harm others, particularly law enforcement, you're going to jail. We're not going to end up like Portland. The bill has been signed and takes effect immediately. Joining us now is Nailah Summers, co-executive director of the Dream Defenders. Nailah, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So, explain this bill. I mean, it's anti-rioters, but this actually goes much further than that.
Much further. You know, this is Ron DeSantis's campaign promise to his base. He announced this back in September of 2020, in the middle of a summer of uprising, after he ignored the pandemic for months and months and months, right? People were in the streets grieving, hurting. And this was his answer. This is what he came to Florida with, HB 1. At the time, he called it the most comprehensive bill of its kind. You know, it's a combination of anti-defund legislation, anti-protest legislation. It gives free rein to vigilantes to hit protesters with their cars. It also protects Confederate monuments. So it's just, he threw the kitchen sink at us here in Florida. And it's what he's telling his base that he can do with us. And it's his campaign promise.
One of the things that that was even crazier, he wanted to expand the state stand your ground law. And this is from the Miami Herald, that to justify the use of force against people, go to my computer, please, against people who looted or impaired businesses and would have barred people from getting state benefits or state jobs if they were ever convicted of participating in a violent or disorderly assembly. But a state senator said there were parts of it we felt were not appropriate to fit within this bill. I mean, this is what they were doing, and what they're doing here. Again, what he's doing here is mob intimidation statute, first-degree misdemeanor for a group of 3 or more people to try and change someone's viewpoints by using violence or the threat of violence, punishable by a sentence up to 1 year in jail. The law will also criminalize the practice of publishing a person's personally identifying information, such as addresses or phone numbers, to harass them online. Floridians will also not be allowed to post bail until they make their first appearance in court when arrested for a number of crimes, including theft and burglary during a state of emergency. Then the one that's interesting here, under the law, any person who, without permission, tears down any type of memorial dedicated to a historical person, an entity, or an event, or a series of events, would face a second-degree felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison.
In prison, with no bail, right? And we saw this all over the country. People in the streets were saying, we cannot revere these old monuments. And that was one of the first things that Ron DeSantis mentioned in his bill, is locking people up, holding people accountable for defacing monuments. And we know that in Florida, that absolutely means Confederate statues, Confederate flags. They're all over this state. And so, yeah, 15 years is what he's telling us if anybody were to deface anything. I mean, that's writing with a marker, that's, covering it up with a flag, that's anything.
Now, here's what I also find to be real interesting. Republicans love talking about local control, local control, local control, big government. Go back to my computer, please. The law allows state's attorneys in each judicial circuit or a member of a city commission to appeal local police budget reductions. The appeal will be subject to review by the governor's office, which ultimately would rule whether it needs further review. Okay, the Herald article goes on to say, if it does, a separate commission, which includes the governor and the Florida cabinet, will have the final say on whether the local government should approve, amend, or modify a spending plan. How in the hell can the state tell a city elected by taxpayers how they should govern their city when it comes to the police?
All under the guise of protecting law enforcement. Roland, that's the cover for this whole thing. This monumental, violation of our First Amendment rights in Florida. He's saying it's to protect law enforcement, all of it. So a municipality, a city could say, you know what, we want 10 less cars, police cars this year. We're going to put that little money somewhere else. And it would have to go through the state attorney. And that was an amendment that got added because originally that approval had to go all the way up to the governor. So it's all a ploy, today when he announced it, it was the first thing he talked about this. It's what we call preemption, right? Where the state overrules the local. And it's the first thing that he talked about this morning when he announced the bill. He was so proud of it, so proud to be able to overrule cities. And we are not going to have defund the police here in Florida. So, that's what's happening right now. And it's just such a violation. I have to laugh. We've been fighting this bill for months since he announced it in September. And so I laugh to keep from crying.
How do y'all plan to respond to it? How do you plan to fight it?
Well, we're definitely going to see him in court. Absolutely. Expect that very soon. And then, he can legislate this racism if he wants to, but people are still going to be in the streets. We're still going to be fighting injustice everywhere all the time. I mean, he did this ahead of jury deliberations today, right? Like, the timing of this is exact. It's precise. He knew what he was doing. So we're going to keep our people safe. We're going to teach people about the bill, right? We got to tell them what their situation is now in Florida, what the consequences are, the risks, but also figure out ways to keep each other safe when we're out there, because he's just not going to be able to stop this movement.
All right, then. Nailah Summers, Co-Executive Director of the Dream Defenders. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland.
What we're seeing here, Eugene, is Governor Ron DeSantis running for re-election next year, and really this is all about 2024. This is all about him trying to appeal to these right-wing conservatives, trying to be as Trumpian as he possibly can.
That's all this comes down to. This is a 2024 re-election, and it's also a 2022 re-election and 2024 presidential run that he's laying out. This is where the dangers of like some of the wildest parts of the far right come into play, because when you have people like DeSantis in power that would actually put some of these things into motion, in the law and the policy, people get hurt. People are going to be hurt by this. But I do think that it looks with my knowledge of the Constitution, the First Amendment, I would love to see how this plays out in court. You cannot, make illegal a citizen's right to address grievances against their government under the First Amendment, and that's exactly what he does here.
What do you make of this, Julian, again, this crazy, outlandish bill that's now signed into law in Florida?
Well, crazy and outlandish are the nicest things we can say about it. But here's the other piece, Roland. This will go to court, but it will go to a Supreme Court that's inclined against citizens. So there's a fight that's going on. I'm so happy that you had Nailah on to talk about this. But the fact is that 43 states have figured out ways to restrict citizen rights, from voting rights to other rights. And we saw this before in Congress, where people want to send you to jail because you protested. Now, they didn't send the fools who stormed the Capitol to jail until after a while, and they still haven't found all of them. They could find them if they wanted to. So I think that, Amy said something, I think, in a previous segment about hypocrisy. IHOP. They think it's pancakes. It's International Hypocrisy Operations Program. And that's what we have here. We have hypocrisy and more. But I think that people, the more they do this craziness, the more essentially girded people are to say, oh, no, oh, hell no, oh, not here. That's how the people came out in Georgia to vote for Warnock and Ossoff. And that's going to be how they come out in Florida to ensure that DeSantis gets a one-way ticket to someplace with double hockey sticks.
The thing that trips me out again, Ava's over and over and over. How Republicans love to talk about, again, sticking government's nose and everything. But for them, basically what they're trying to do is, like Alabama and Mississippi, telling cities, you can't touch monuments, we control that. But to sit here and now tell a city they can't make their own determination on how they spend the city's money on the police? Come on. You on mute.
I see that Eugene had it exactly right when he was talking about the fact that DeSantis right now, honestly, he's just trying to set himself up for a presidential run. He's trying to be as outlandish as he's trying to out-Trump Trump, really. And, I see him as trying to make himself the quote-unquote heir apparent to the Trump crazies. And so that means that he is doing all of this ridiculous. You remember how extra he was with the whole COVID situation and, how we still have COVID running amok down there, cannot trust one statistic out of that state because they have intentionally diluted the data. So you can't show how badly it's run amok down there. And this is just another way in which he's literally looking to kill people. This is the crazies have taken over the Republican Party, and the crazies of the crazies are the ones who are now trying to get in leadership of this new sort of ridiculous, insane wing of that party. So as ridiculous and as dangerous as this law is, and as all of those things that are happening all over the country right now in terms of everything that's going on with voting rights, all of those things are outgrowths of this really off the rails, right wing, white supremacist, just deadly and dangerous leanings of a Republican Party that is determined to do anything to hold on to power, to take power, and literally being willing to kill anyone who does not agree with their political leanings.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of laughable as we continue to see what they're doing.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.